Okay, so let's look at the first seal, Revelation chapter 6, verse 2. And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer. So first thing we see is a white horse. There's two white horses we see in Revelation. We see one white horse here. We see another one in Revelation 19:11. Let me read you that one, Revelation 19:11. Then I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes the war. So we have two white horses. We have one that shows up here, which you know to be the Antichrist, and we see one at the second coming, which is Christ. Because why? Satan's the great imitator. So we see him coming back. And that's the first thing we see. He's a white horse coming back, just like people will suspect like Christ coming back. All right? The second thing we notice about this guy on the white horse is he has a bow. But notice the bow doesn't have an arrow. And what does that show? It means he's showing that he has strength, but he's coming in peace. He's peaceful. That's what he's saying. He's not here to create war, but to create peace. And Daniel 9:27 says this, and he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, and for a half of the week he shall put an end to the sacrifice and offerings. Okay, so it's a reference here to that he's going to make a peace covenant in the Middle East that we see going on now. So the Antichrist, he'll show up, that's why he shows him just a bow. Not come to conquer at first. He'll come to make peace with Israel. He'll make a peace covenant between them. And then in the middle of the tribulation, he'll show his real colors. That's why it says. We also see that in Daniel, in Matthew 24:15. And that's about the middle of the tribulation, where he says, and when on the wings of the abomination shall come one who desolate. All right? It's the same reference to that. So now we see the rider on the white horse is the Antichrist. Comes with the bow. Okay? Then we see the rider on the white horse in Revelation 19 is Christ. But he comes with the sword to judge. We'll look at that more. The second thing we notice about the Antichrist is he has a crown. All right? And the crown was given to him. And notice that the crown was given to him. What does that mean, the crown was given to him? For one thing, the crown there is, the word in the Greek is Stephanos. And that's the victor's crown, a crown of triumph. It's one that you would get if you ran a race. It's a crown of a race. It's a different crown than what Christ had. We'll look at what Christ had. But so he's getting a Stephanos, which means he's showing that he's a king. He was a ruler. Okay? But it was given to him by who? It was given to him because he conquered one. He was a conqueror. He will conquer and rule, like we have a president or a king. And two, by God. All authority is given by God. Let's look at that. Go to Daniel chapter 2. Chapter 2. And I'll start in verse 20. And said, praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and season. He sets up kings and disposes of them. Okay? He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. So it's Christ who put him on the throne. It's God who puts people on the throne. It's not a mistake there. All authority comes from God. Go to Daniel 4:17. Also Daniel 4:17. The decision is announced by messengers. The holy ones declare the verdict, so that the living may know that the Most High is sovereign over the kingdoms of men and gives them to anyone he wishes and sets over them the lowliest of men. It's God. And you notice it was given to him. There was a time when it was given to him. He's not here yet because God has not allowed him to be here yet. And that's a study that you would find out of 2 Thessalonians, when you read 2 Thessalonians, about what's holding him back, the restrainer that we won't talk about today. All right. So we see he has a crown that was given to him by who? Because he was a king, he'll be upheld like a king and a dictator here on earth. And it was given to him by God. Only because God has given for a time like this. That's the only reason why. Okay, he comes to conquer. He'll be a conqueror. How this lines up with Matthew 24. So this first seal matches up with the Olivet Discourse, and it comes with Matthew 24, verse 5. That says, "For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and they will lead many astray." All right, so many will come and say, I am the Christ. So there's many people who are going to claim during this 7 years, okay, that they're Christ. But the Antichrist will be the only one. There's many people that are going to come and say, I know what to do to solve this financial problem. Many people will come and say, I have the answer. But there will only be one. There will be many during that time, but one will rise. And it's the one we see here is the Antichrist, and he'll show up. There's the comparison between the Antichrist. He is the great imitator. What's the difference between him? He's coming this time, just like Christ came the first time. He's coming peacefully, even though he will create war later. He's coming peacefully, just like Christ came the first time. So he comes with a bow, but when Christ comes back, he's coming with a sword. Because Christ came back the first time not to judge, not to condemn, but to save. But this time, when he comes back, he's coming to judge with a sword. We have to understand that's what the tribulation hour is about. It's judgment coming upon the earth. All right. So another thing too, out of the mouth of the Antichrist, it comes. We see that in Revelation 13:5 comes blasphemies, and out of the mouth of the Lord comes judgment and righteousness. He imitates the same thing with Christ, but it's opposite of whatever. He's antichrist. Antichrist. We have to understand that. All right. Let's go on to the second seal. The second seal, Revelation chapter 6, verse 4. "And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword." Notice two things, too. He was permitted. Again, it was another permitted. It was under the jurisdiction that God gave them. And notice how all he had to do was not create war, but take peace from earth. That's all this writer has to do is take peace, not make war, because he said that men will do that, should slay one another. He will divide men. Men will be divided amongst each other. They'll hate each other. There will be a time when they hate each other so much that he will just take peace. He doesn't have to. So the Antichrist, to make it very simply, he doesn't look like he's the one doing it, but he'll take peace from earth. We see this with the Olivet Discourse. Where does this match with that? Matthew 24, verse 6. "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet." All right, so we see, look, how they match. Let's go to the third seal. That comes from Revelation chapter 6, 5 through 6. "When he opened the third seal, I heard the living creature say, 'Come.' And I looked, and behold, a black horse. And its riders had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, 'A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine.'" What's all that about? This is about famine, the great famine that's going to come across the earth. A great, huge famine, the whole earth. Not just part of the earth, the whole earth. We've seen famine, but this is going to experience the whole earth. And what he's saying, a quart for a wheat and a denarius, it'll take a day's wages, whatever you earn in a whole day, to buy a loaf of bread. That's what he's saying. You won't even be able, in those days of such hyperinflation, that you won't even be able to feed your family with a day wages. And when he says, "Do not harm the oil and wine," that's a reference to richness. There will still be the rich. There's a reference in James that talks about they'll store up their great riches in those days, but they will not share their riches. It's the same thing that they will only pay you a day's wage and don't even care if your family eats. So there's always still going to be rich right alongside during this time of famine. How does this line up? I want to also go to Ezekiel chapter 4. Ezekiel chapter 4.